The footage is shaky, handheld, low resolution, almost like it was never meant to be seen. Shadows flicker behind thick velvet curtains, lit dimly by the dull gold of chandelier light. In the distance, there's the faint clink of a glass, a forced laugh, the kind that ends too quickly. Then, voices, muffled, unclear, but something about the tone cuts through the static. The screen blacks out. Then, audio, distorted. Someone laughs. A name is whispered, indecipherable, but urgent. And then, a sudden, stifling silence. It's the kind that feels like someone just entered the room, the kind that tightens your throat without warning. Cut. Kanye West stands beneath stage lights. He isn't ranting. He isn't smiling. His eyes are hollow but locked in. His hands grip the mic like a lifeline. And then, with a voice that wavers just once, y'all don't know what really goes on in this industry. A silence falls over the crowd. Somewhere in the back, a camera clicks. But in this moment, it's not music. It's not fashion. It's a man preparing to say something he's never said before. Voiceover. In a world built on illusions, the truth doesn't knock. It explodes. What follows is a flash flood of images, a carousel of chaos, screenshots of Twitter threads, blurred out audio spectrograms, anonymous text messages, faces obscured, dates redacted, a close-up of a phone's recording light blinking red in someone's palm. You can't make sense of it yet, and that's the point. What you're about to hear isn't gossip. It's a rupture, a crack in the foundation of everything we thought we knew about two of hip-hop's most powerful icons, Kanye West and Sean Diddy Combs. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. This documentary contains allegations and descriptions involving abuse, coercion, and psychological manipulation. Some material may be disturbing. To understand the weight of what's been revealed, what's only beginning to unravel, we need to rewind. Before the leaked tapes, before the cryptic tweets, before the silence broke, there were two men, two titans, Kanye West and Sean Diddy Combs. Names not just etched in the culture, but architects of it. Icons, innovators, symbols of a particular kind of American mythology, the rise from nothing, the command of empires, the worship of wealth. Let's start with Diddy. Puff Daddy, brother love. Whatever name he wore, one thing stayed constant: the aura. The suit always crisp, the smile always polished, the parties always legendary. A man who didn't just walk red carpets, he curated them. In interviews, he was playful. In boardrooms, he was ruthless. And in the public eye, he was untouchable. Forbes called him hip-hop's first billionaire. Vanity Fair crowned him the last party king. His Ciroc commercials dripped with sleek indulgence, always surrounded by beautiful people, always just out of reach. He was the Black Gatsby, and the industry was his mansion. And then there was Kanye. From the moment he stepped into the spotlight with Through the Wire, he was a paradox. Vulnerable yet defiant, spiritual yet confrontational, always unraveling the expectations stitched into Black celebrity. They said he was a genius, and they weren't wrong, but genius has a cost. He broke every mold: a producer who demanded to rap, a rapper who demanded to preach, a designer who declared war on the fashion gatekeepers. At first, they called him a breath of fresh air, then an ego trip, then unhinged. The public watched in fascination and exhaustion. His highs were operatic: 21 Grammys, Yeezy collaborations, Sunday services that felt biblical. His lows were dissected in real time: meltdowns, Twitter rants, a run for president. But through it all, Kanye whispered a truth no one wanted to confront. "They used to call me crazy," he once said in an interview, staring into the lens like it was a mirror. "But maybe I was just early." It's a haunting line. Because now, in the glow of these newly leaked tapes and the chilling allegations they bring, that sentence feels less like a defense and more like a prophecy. Two men, one raised on Harlem hustle, the other born of Chicago soul, both shaped by the same industry. One built to charm the system, the other built to fight it. But behind the glamour, behind the magazine covers and award speeches, something darker was always brewing. And the public, we saw the suits, the shows, the champagne, but we never saw this. Before the headlines, before the scandals, before the world started piecing together the whispers, there was ambition, hunger, a dream still untouched by darkness. Kanye West entered the industry not as a star, but as a servant to sound, a quiet genius behind the boards, crafting beats that would define a generation. Chicago raised him with gospel and grit. He was spiritual, idealistic, obsessed with meaning. The music wasn't just music, it was his way out, his rebellion, his offering. In those early 2000s days, Kanye was still wearing pink polos in rooms full of hardened egos. He didn't drink, he didn't play the game, and the game noticed. Meanwhile, miles away, but always watching, stood Sean Diddy Combs, already a legend, already a king. He had survived the East Coast-West Coast wars. He had built Bad Boy Records into a juggernaut. He was no longer just an artist, he was an institution. When Diddy walked into a room, it wasn't just the air that changed. The rules did. He could launch a career with a look, end one with a whisper. He was flashy, sharp, always the center of the party. But what many didn't realize was that he was also its gatekeeper. The man behind the velvet rope, the one who decided who was allowed in, and who never would be. It was only a matter of time before their paths crossed. The industry is a small room with loud echoes. Kanye rising through Rockefeller ranks. Diddy circling every deal, every stage, every fashion week. Their early encounters were polite, mutual respect, camera flashes, handshakes at gala tables. Diddy admired Kanye's drive. Kanye, in turn, admired Diddy's power. But admiration isn't always clean. Sometimes it comes with unease. Over time, Diddy began inviting Kanye to the inner circles. Not just the after parties, but those parties. The ones nobody ever talked about publicly. The ones cloaked in mystery and rules. No phones, no press, no questions. Kanye described the invitations as both flattering and confusing. At first, it felt like acceptance, validation, the boy from Chicago being welcomed by the king of New York. But the deeper he went, the more the glamour began to crack. There were things he noticed. Small at first. Unspoken hierarchies. Certain rooms guests weren't allowed to enter. Doors closed at midnight that never reopened. People he admired would suddenly go quiet when Diddy passed by. Artists with everything to lose seemed frightened, even in celebration. Kanye's gut stirred. Something didn't feel right. He began asking questions. He was told to relax, to enjoy the success, to trust the process. But there were moments. One night, at a party in Miami, he was asked to sign an NDA at the door. Not unusual in celebrity circles, but this one was different. 3 pages, no cameras, no voice recording, no memory, it seemed, of what might unfold past those marble pillars. Later that night, he overheard a conversation. Laughter, names, rumors of coercion. Nothing provable, nothing concrete. But the discomfort that had once been a whisper was now growing louder in his chest. Kanye had always been spiritual, and now he began praying more, pulling away. He'd show up to events but leave early, decline invitations without explanation. The industry called it ego, distance, but it was fear and intuition. And Diddy? He noticed. The invitations didn't stop, but they changed. More pressure, less patience. The warmth turned cold. Their relationship became something more transactional, more tense. There was a power imbalance Kanye couldn't shake. Diddy wasn't just an artist, he was a brand, a mogul, a media empire. He controlled rooms, controlled narratives, and slowly, Kanye realized he wasn't just being led into the kingdom, he was being watched, measured, tested. This was no friendship, it was a hierarchy, and Kanye, once grateful for the access, began to suspect that the price of entry was much higher than anyone knew. What he didn't realize yet was that the real cost hadn't even been asked of him. Not yet. It was a night that Kanye West would later describe in fragments. Never in full. A memory blurred by emotion, dread, and disbelief. But one detail remained sharp. The invitation came directly from Diddy. Not through a publicist, not through an assistant. From him. The location was familiar. A sprawling estate in the hills, where Diddy often hosted his most exclusive parties. But this wasn't the typical red carpet affair with celebrity selfies and champagne towers. There were no photographers, no press releases, just a single cryptic message. Come alone. Leave your phone. When Kanye arrived, the house was already alive with shadows. The lights were low, warm golds flickering over obsidian floors. Music pulsed softly beneath the surface, not loud, not joyful, but rhythmic, almost ceremonial. Security took his phone at the door. A man in a tailored black suit handed him a mask, not a simple costume. This was intricate, ornate, Venetian style. It felt heavy in his palm. Inside, the room stretched endlessly, each one more decadent than the last. Silk drapes, crushed velvet, art that seemed to watch you back. But what unsettled Kanye most weren't the surroundings, it was the silence. A charged, eerie hush beneath the occasional burst of laughter. The guests, if that's what you could call them, weren't easily recognizable. Most wore masks, spoke in hushed voices, used aliases, or not at all. Kanye wondered, observed, uncomfortable. In the center of the house was a circular room where the party's tone shifted. Here, the energy was darker. Some lounged, others whispered in corners. He saw hands graze too long, eyes linger too coldly. Glasses of expensive liquor passed from palm to palm, though Kanye didn't drink. What he did see, what he couldn't unsee, were behaviors he would later call ritualistic. A circle of guests moving in sync, candles, incense, a chant, maybe. Someone, he still doesn't know who, placing a hand on his shoulder, trying to guide him toward a closed door. That's when he pulled away. He remembers saying, no, a simple refusal. But in that room, it felt like a scream. And then, a shift. The warmth evaporated. The smiles stiffened. He was offered a drink again. Something stronger. He declined again. What followed wasn't a confrontation. It was quieter, more surgical, a slow suffocation of welcome. He left early. No one stopped him. But as he exited into the night, the cold was not just in the air. It had sunk into his bones. Days later, things began to change. Slowly, then all at once. Calls went unanswered. Meetings were rescheduled. Invitations stopped coming. Collaborations, some years in the making, were suddenly shelved without explanation. At first, Kanye thought it was coincidence. The industry was unpredictable. But then came the headlines. The whispers turned public. Erratic Kanye storms out of event. Kanye West's mental health in question after bizarre outburst. Sources say West increasingly paranoid, isolating himself. And Diddy? Silent, distant, almost surgical in his disassociation. When asked, he offered nothing. No support, no denial, just absence. But behind closed doors, people whispered. One of Kanye's longtime collaborators pulled him aside after a recording session and said, "They'll bury you if you speak." The warning was clear. Whatever he had seen, whatever he had felt, he needed to forget it. Because in this business, truth was not currency. Silence was. And yet, the betrayal stung deeper than the silence. Kanye had admired Diddy, respected him, had seen him as a blueprint for black excellence in white-run empires. But now, that blueprint felt rotten. He began journaling more, writing music he never released, sketching out thoughts he couldn't yet say aloud. He told no one, not even Kim at the time, what had truly happened that night. But in his music, in the tension behind every beat, the ghosts began to appear. By the end of that year, Kanye found himself on the outside of an industry he helped build. Deals pulled, doors shut, media labeling him unwell. But he wasn't broken. Not yet. He was waiting, watching, and collecting evidence. After that night, something in Kanye West began to change. Not suddenly, not with fireworks, but like a slow leak in the hull of a ship, quiet, invisible, until the water's already at your knees. He started speaking less in interviews, more on stage, where the lights could hide his fear and the beat could drown out the tremble in his voice. But the things he said there, they weren't rehearsed. They weren't polished. They were frantic, jagged. Google lied to you. Jay-Z, don't send killers at my head. They trying to control me. To most of the world, it was another Kanye meltdown. A spectacle, a meme, but underneath the screaming and stumbling, there was something raw. A cry not for attention, but for truth. He had seen something he couldn't unsee, and he was paying the price. By 2016, during his St. Pablo tour, Kanye's inner world was cracking. Mid-concert rants became the norm. In Sacramento, he stopped a show after just a few songs to launch into a 17-minute speech. He called out Beyoncé, Jay-Z, Facebook, Hillary Clinton, not with coherence, but with pain. Days later, he was hospitalized. The headlines rolled in. Kanye West hospitalized for psychiatric evaluation. Photos surfaced of him handcuffed to a gurney. He was diagnosed, sedated, and left to recover away from the public eye. And the world, conditioned to mock what it doesn't understand, laughed. The memes came faster than the facts. Sponsors distanced themselves. Interviews were canceled. Adidas began rethinking their partnership. He was spiraling in the public's imagination, while privately, he was drowning. And through it all, Diddy stayed silent, untouched, still throwing parties, still smiling in front-row seats, still untouched by the chaos he may have helped ignite. Kim Kardashian, once Kanye's anchor in the media storm, began to pull away, not with malice, but fatigue. She tried, at first. She listened. But the deeper Kanye sank into his isolation, the harder it became to reach him. Eventually, she left. Friends vanished too, some quietly, others publicly, citing concern or boundaries. But Kanye wasn't just losing people. He was losing credibility. The more he spoke, the less anyone believed him. They didn't want truth, they wanted a headline. He began spending days alone, scribbling in journals, avoiding calls. The studio sat silent, beats unfinished, lyrics abandoned mid-bar. In one entry, discovered later by someone close to him, he wrote, "They paint you insane so they don't have to hear you." That line, quiet, damning, true. Because what the world saw as madness, the media labeled bipolar, the brands labeled liability, may have been the result of trauma, of a system designed to discard the whistleblower and elevate the abuser. This was not just a mental health crisis. It was a consequence, a man stripped of protection, of context, of the right to be heard. And while Kanye's world shrank, Diddy's remained expansive. He was still on yachts, still smiling with Ciroc in hand, still branded as hip-hop royalty. But behind Kanye's eyes, behind the paranoia, the outbursts, the spirals, was a map, a pattern, a network of secrets too dark to say out loud, and every time he tried, the world changed the subject. Because no one wanted to believe what he had to say. Not yet. It started like most Kanye moments do, with a cryptic tweet. No context, no press release, just a phrase typed in all caps, left to hang in the void like a prophecy. "You can't serve God and Satan." Then, a second post. "I stayed quiet. God told me not anymore." At first, no one knew what to make of it. In a world where Kanye's online presence had become part performance, part prayer, part puzzle, people scrolled past it. Shrugged, moved on, but then the audio dropped. The first file was short, just under 2 minutes, poor quality, grainy, like it was recorded through layers of velvet and fear, but the voices, they were unmistakable, muffled at first. Then, clearer, laughter. Someone saying, "She don't even know what she signed up for." Another voice, lower, familiar, asks, "You sure this one's clean?" A third person chuckles. Then, silence. A sudden silence that swallows the air, and then crying. A woman's voice pleading, "Please, I don't want to be here anymore. Please." The recording ends abruptly. No names are spoken, but the implication is deafening. Within hours, Twitter explodes. Reddit threads spawn like wildfire. Theories, speculations, frame-by-frame audio breakdowns. Some claim the voice belongs to a rising R&B star who mysteriously left the industry 2 years ago. Others point to the background music, noting it matches the playlist used during one of Diddy's infamous Black Excellence parties. But the most chilling reactions come from inside the industry. Not public comments, not tweets, but quiet messages leaked to blogs and independent journalists. One anonymous producer writes, "I've heard that voice before. That party wasn't a secret, just never thought it'd leak." Another post surfaces on a private forum. "I was there. Not that night, but a different one. Phones were always taken. You signed an NDA just to enter the hallway. What you posted is real. I don't know how he got it out, but it's real." The internet's tone shifts from mockery to fear. And still, Kanye says nothing more. No interviews, no clarifications, just that one post. The seal is broken. Mainstream media hesitates. Big outlets tiptoe around the audio, citing unverified claims, ongoing investigations, potential defamation. But the silence, once a shield, starts to look like complicity. Diddy's team issues a vague denial. These accusations are false, defamatory, and clearly intended to damage a legacy built over decades. But it's not enough, because the truth, even in shadow, has a scent, and the public, for the first time, smells blood. More files follow. Kanye posts them in fragments. One includes a conversation referencing cleaning the guest list before a high-profile party. Another captures a voice, alleged to be a known rapper, discussing how to handle a guest who was starting to remember too much. Again, no names, no direct accusations, But the voices are real. The tone is unmistakable. And Kanye, he isn't backing down. For the first time, people begin to listen. Not just to what he's saying, but what he's always tried to say. This wasn't a meltdown. This wasn't performance art. This was a whistleblower. A man broken, not by madness, but by silence. And now, silence had become the enemy. The studio lights were dim, almost reverent. A thick tension hung in the room, like it already knew history was about to be made. It wasn't a press conference. It wasn't a red carpet. It wasn't a trial. But it might as well have been. It was the Joe Rogan experience. And seated across from one of the most polarizing interviewers in media was Kanye West. Not frantic, not disheveled, not yelling, but quiet. Still, eyes clear, voice steady. A different man than the one tabloids had feasted on for years. "This won't be what they think," Kanye began, the camera holding tight on his face. "They'll call it another meltdown. Say I'm off my meds. Say I need help." He paused, looked straight into the lens. "It's not a breakdown. It's my awakening." Rogan leaned forward, unusually silent. He wasn't challenging. He wasn't joking. He was listening, the way someone listens when the room starts to shift beneath their feet. Kanye reached into his bag and pulled out a worn leather journal. The edges were bent, pages marked in ink and pain. "This is where I kept the parts I couldn't say out loud," he said. "The rooms, the rules, the rituals, the faces behind the curtains." He flipped to a page, read slowly. "They pass you a mask at the door. If you don't put it on, you're watched. If you take it off, you disappear." Then he played a clip, not the leaked audios from Twitter. This one was video. Blurred, grainy, but unmistakably real. A hallway, a marble floor, a woman sobbing in a corner while two men argue softly behind her. One holds a clipboard, the other whispers, "He's not ready. Don't let him see this room." Kanye didn't say where it was filmed, didn't name who was in it. But he didn't have to. "I'm not the only one," he said. "There were others who warned me. Quincy told me stories. Dame told me to watch my back. Even Ye once warned Ye, but I didn't listen." He smiled faintly, not out of joy, but out of weariness. "I used to think I was being punished," he said, "but maybe I was being protected." The moment was electric. No theatrics, no viral rants, just confession, just clarity. When Rogan finally spoke, it was a whisper. "You know this is gonna break the internet, right?" Kanye nodded. "Let it. It's already broken." He closed the journal and placed it on the table like evidence. Then he looked into the camera again, not as a performer, but as a witness. "They control the parties," he said, "because they fear the prophets. The ones who see, the ones who remember." The episode uploaded that night. Within hours, it had millions of views. Clips circulated everywhere. Hashtags erupted. Yabra Kanye testifies. The hallway, let Ye speak. Diddy's team responded with urgency, calling the footage doctored, the claims unfounded, and the diary a fabrication. They threatened legal action, but for the first time, denial didn't work, because the veil was lifting and people weren't looking away. The stage is smaller now, no flashing lights, no smoke, just a circle of folding chairs, a few dozen people, and a piano. Kanye stands at the center, not performing, but witnessing. A Sunday service reborn, not the spectacle it once was. No gold robes or VIP tents. This isn't for show, it's for truth. "I lost friends. I lost money. I lost my family," he says into the mic, voice low but unwavering. "They took everything, but my soul." There's no cheering, just silence. And then, quiet weeping. He speaks like a man who knows the cost of remembering in a world built on forgetting. A world where velvet ropes don't protect you, they trap you. It's not justice. Not yet. Diddy hasn't been arrested. There are no grand trials. No Netflix documentaries. But something did happen. The silence cracked. Diddy's empire, once untouchable, begins to buckle. A-list names decline his invites. Old collaborators distance themselves. A major deal collapses without explanation. Media outlets quietly retract past praise. No one says it out loud, but everyone feels it. His myth is bleeding. Meanwhile, Kanye keeps building. Not just songs or shoes, but sanctuaries, spaces. He starts hosting open mic Sundays. Not for music, but for stories. A place where no phones are allowed, but no secrets are either. Victims come, whisper, speak, cry, remember. Kanye just listens. There's no closure, no cinematic ending, but maybe That's the point. This isn't about vengeance. It's about witness, about making sure what happened in the shadows doesn't stay there. And in the final shot, he stands alone at that same piano, fingers barely grazing the keys as the sun breaks through the stained glass. When you live behind velvet ropes long enough, eventually the lights come on,